Hey guys, it is Christine. Welcome if you are new here. I am mama to 3 little ones. They're currently all under the age of 5. And I post videos and I blog about parenting tips and just helping mamas to keep motherhood pretty and practical. So today I'm going to talk about how to be a calm mom. If you are new and you're watching this on my YouTube channel, then I would love it if you take a moment to hit the subscribe button so you can keep up to date with the videos that I post. I also have a Facebook group that you're welcome to join if you're looking for a community of mums and friends. I will leave the link to that in the description below. But let's get into the video. I posted this blog post a few weeks back and it had a huge uptake in traffic. It was actually an old blog post that I revamped, and I wrote a lot more content to go with it and made new images for it and everything, and I sent it out into the blog sphere. And it was met with really good feedback. I was very surprised at how popular it was. And I'm not saying this to like toot my own horn, it's just that I realized that I'd hit a pain point for mamas, and so I thought it'd be helpful to make a video to go along with it, because it's also nice to sort of like put a face to the name and have a personal touch on the post. So I'm going to go over the post and what I wrote in it and just share some tips for how to be a calm mom, because I feel like this is something that the vast majority of us struggle with, and it's also where our mama guilt stems from, because we feel like we're failing at this. At least I know I do. Okay, I'm going to try and not make this video be too long because there's like 17 tips, so let's just get through them. But these are things, I am not perfect at this, but these are things that have really helped me and that I would recommend to other mamas who are struggling. So the first one is to try and stay rested, and I know that sounds laughable when you have little ones, because it's like, when do you ever get to rest? But here's me telling you to make it a priority. Like, it shouldn't be put on the back burner. If you have to choose between doing something like watching Netflix and resting, you need a rest if you don't want to explode at your kids the next day. Because if you're anything like me, your reactions are not as well controlled when you are sleep deprived. So if you know that is an area that you really struggle in, make it a priority to try and rest when you can. Number 2 is to get up before your kids. And this doesn't have to be like hours and hours before your kids. It could just be 10 minutes. But to have a chance to like take a deep breath and just, get a hold of your day before they are in your face asking you for things will really help your attitude first thing in the morning. Number 3 is to take time for yourself. And it doesn't have to be elaborate. I see these mamas who talk about like self-care and everything, and there's nothing wrong with going out and getting pampered and stuff, but like that's just not reality for me. There's no way that I'm going to be able to go out and get my nails done. There's like 1, no one to watch my kids, and 2, it's expensive to do that kind of stuff on a regular basis. So like I say, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but don't feel like that's the kind of stuff you have to do in order to spend some time on yourself. It could just be simple pleasures like watching a YouTube video or painting your nails. Like, it doesn't have to be super fancy, but try and take some time for yourself every day. Tip number 4 is to prepare for the chaos. Don't know about you, but in my household, once 4:30 hits, it is witching hour. Everyone is grumpy. The baby wants me, the toddler's whining, the preschooler's asking 5 million deep theological questions. Yeah, that's just the norm in our home, and it can be really challenging to get dinner on and the house tidy. So I try and prep for dinner ahead of time. I might use my slow cooker. I'm like meal plan. I do things like that to help relieve the stress at that time of the day. So look at your day, see what is the most stressful part, and see how you can figure that out so that you don't explode on your kids because you're just like, I can't do it all, Number 5 is to time block, and this is something I've only recently started doing, but it is highly effective. I work from home. I work about 25-30 hours a week on my blogs, and I find that when I try and multitask, I'm far less productive and I get frustrated at my children. So what I try and do now is time block. So from this time to this time, I'm working on the blog. From this time to this time, I am focusing on my children and only my children. And that has really helped eradicate that mama guilt that I was feeling. And I am less likely to get frustrated with them because they're not interrupting my work, because it's a set time for that. And they're either sleeping or they're occupied or whatever, so they're not interrupting me. Number 6 is to declutter and clean up. And I know that you might be thinking like, why is this going to help me be a calmer mom? This is going to be subjective depending on who you are. But for me, when my house is a huge mess, I like want to explode at everyone. It drives me up the wall. So it just takes up mental space when there's stuff all over my home. So one, I mean, like if you could see my living room right now, you would just laugh at me. There's literally toys from one end to the other and like bits of food from lunch. I just haven't had a chance to clean it up yet, but it will get cleaned up today. So make it a priority to like get rid of stuff you don't need and to just do general cleanups throughout the day. You don't have to have your house spick and span all of the time, but if you can just keep it like manageable, it will really help your mental space. Number 7 is to have a coping strategy. When you hit those times where you feel like you're about to lose it on your kids, figure out what works to calm you down and to help you just deal with the situation without becoming a monster, because none of us like that. Like, it is the worst feeling in the world when you see your child's like wide eyes looking at you after you've just screamed at them. It's awful, and it makes me feel awful even saying it out loud that I do that, but I know I'm not the only one after writing that post and getting feedback on it. So really think about what helps for you. For me, it's just like walking away. Like if I'm about to literally lose it, I will just walk away. Even with the kids screaming and crying and all the mess going on, I will just walk away from the situation when I can, when it's safe. Otherwise, I'll just stop and ignore everyone and breathe. So those are the things that work for me, but figure out what works for you. Number 8 is to find out what triggers you and to address it. Look back on those times where you have exploded and try and find out what it is that like sets you off. For me, it's not usually ever just one thing. It's a layering effect of lots of different things where I'm under the pump to get stuff done, or I'm not feeling well, or one of the kids isn't feeling well. Like, it's usually several different things that all build up. And yeah, so I have to personally figure out how to cope with those and how to set my expectations. But see if there's something in particular that really sets you off and just work on that. Number 9 is to not take it personally. This is something I really need to get better at, but when your kid is having a meltdown because you set a boundary and you said no, it's not your fault that they're having a meltdown. That is their decision. Your job as their parent is to parent them, and that is to set appropriate boundaries and appropriate rules for them. That is where your responsibility ends. How they decide to respond to those boundaries is not your fault. It just isn't. And I know that that can be hard to understand and to cope with, but it really is important that you learn not to take it personally, because that's just going to make you more emotional in the moment and your response won't be as good as it should be. Number 10 is to step away and avoid punishing. When you are in the heat of the moment and you are angry and you are not calm, do not punish your child, because they won't be learning anything. You're just lashing out at them, and that is wrong on every level. So never discipline in the moment. Always step away, take a deep breath, reassess, and then go back in with a clear head, because your child, like I say, they're not going to learn anything. And I'm a firm believer that discipline is not just about punishment and consequences. It's also about teaching them. So make sure it's a teachable moment and not just a mummy exploding in anger moment. Number 11 is to take responsibility for your reaction. So don't blame it on your kids, is what I'm saying. You cannot expect them to be perfect. They're toddlers, they're babies, they're young kids. You are responsible for your reaction. You're responsible for setting the boundaries and the rules in your home and parenting, but you're also responsible for the way that you react to your children. So when you mess up, own it. Don't try and, deflect and say, oh, well, they were doing this and they were doing that. Well, I know it's hard. I really, really know it's hard, but it doesn't mean that we get to, say, oh, well, it was hard, so I get to just scream at my kids, because it's not okay. And they don't deserve to be screamed at. They are children and they're learning. And I think it's really important to put yourself in their shoes, How would you feel if someone was yelling at you that way? Like, if you think about it that way, it makes you feel terrible, because it's like, well, no one should be yelled at like that, Even if the toddler did, draw all over the walls and the baby is in the pantry pulling out the food that they shouldn't be touching, you just cannot. You need to be the calm in the chaos is basically what I'm trying to say, because if they're going crazy, they need someone to calm them. They don't need someone to join in on the crazy. Number 12 is to stop and breathe. And I feel like I need to stop and breathe, but someone's coming to my house soon and I need to get this video filmed. So I'm sorry if I'm talking really, really fast. You can slow me down on YouTube. I'm sure there's a way you can do it. But But seriously, stop and breathe. This is something that I referred to when I talked about having a strategy to cope. Just stopping. Like, don't react. Just stop and take a couple of deep breaths and clear your mind and then respond to the situation. It really does help. Number 13 is to stop and think. And you can do this the same time that you're stopping and breathing. But like, seriously, stop and think. Why are you feeling angry? Why are you feeling like you're going to explode at your kids? Is this something that is truly important, or is it just sort of irritating you? You know, is it something that needs to be dealt with properly? Are you like pushing them away? Because I know that sometimes I end up exploding on my kids because they're doing something they shouldn't be, and I keep giving them warnings instead of just dealing with it. And then eventually I just snap because I'm like, why aren't you listening? Where in actual fact I should have addressed it the first time, or at the very latest the second time. So think about the whole situation and how you should be addressing it. Tip number 14 is to embrace it. If you are in the stage of motherhood where you have young children and it is crazy, you need to learn how to embrace it, because it's going to be like this for a few years. And if you don't learn how to embrace it, you are going to become bitter and angry, and you're not going to be a joyful mom. And that's really sad, because motherhood should be a joyful experience. It shouldn't be hard and horrible all the time. There are going to be days that are hard and horrible. I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't, recognize that and accept that, but you can't let it overwhelm you, and you can't let it define your motherhood. You need to be able to see the crazy and the chaos and just see all the blessings that come along with that. And that takes practice. It's a habit that you have to get into. Tip number 16 is to apologize to your family. I will tell you that this is one of the main things that stuck out to me as a child with my mother. She was always humble enough to apologize when she had messed up, and it only strengthened our relationship. And so my tip for you is to always apologize to your spouse, to your children. When you explode on your family, it's not okay, but you will be surprised at how forgiving they are. So please always take the time to apologize. It will make a huge impact on your child, and it will only strengthen your relationship. It will not damage it in any way, I can assure you. Because I know that some parents are like, but I'm the parent, and so apologizing. No. That's just pride. Like, your children need to see you humble, and they will have far more respect for you if you can apologize when you have messed up. And the last tip, number 17, is to give yourself grace. Mama, you cannot live in guilt, okay? Your children were given to you to parent. No, you're not perfect. Yes, you're going to mess up, but that's okay. It's okay. If you can own it and you're working to do better every day, then that's all you need to do, okay? I just think we try and set these unrealistic expectations of ourselves, and it's just not reality. We're not going to be able to live up to them. It's okay to have things that we're trying to strive for. That's fine, but give yourself grace when you mess up. When you apologize to your family and you ask them to forgive you, do the same for yourself. Forgive yourself for the times you've messed up. Tomorrow is a new day, and your kids are just amazing at being forgiving. So please, please, please don't live in that guilt. Don't speak truth to your heart. Don't speak lies, because it's not helpful to you or your children. The best thing you can do for your children is speak truth to your heart, and speak strength to yourself, and just surround yourself either with people or just resources, books, podcasts, things that lift you up and build you up as a mother. Make an effort to surround yourself by those, and fill your heart and your mind with those, because they really do make a difference. So I hope that this video was helpful. I hope it didn't feel too rushed, and I really, really hope that you got something out of it and that you can apply it to your motherhood. And please feel free to reach out to me. I love to hear from my viewers and my readers. It honestly makes my day. It's like, I blog and I write so much, but I'm just writing on a screen, and I depend on feedback from you to hear if it's really helpful and it's something that you want more of. So I would love to hear back from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.